Hey everybody, and welcome to the very first episode of His and Hers Trauma Podcast, starring Mr. and Mrs. Trauma. This is like all brand new for me to be doing this on my own. I have podcasted before, but Mr. Trauma has not, but he's like really excited. So we're stoked about the possibilities of what this show can do for just anybody that's gone through a really hard time and is experiencing trauma or has or thinks they might be experiencing some of it. My hopes are that this is a place to come and listen to stories and information that can educate you, along with also being relatable. So, we're going to get a little personal about some things, but we're also going to be informative as well. So for this recording, this is basically just kind of like a little gloss over about me and my role, I think, in this whole thing. I'm not sure exactly how it's going to end up, but that's okay. It's brand new and fun. So let's go. Okay, so this whole thing, let me do this. Hold on, let me flag it. Okay, so here we go. Trauma is not easy to talk about, and it has taken me a really long time to be able to process kind of everything, because it was 6 years of just like constant trauma. And I've been kind of wanting to do this podcast for a long time. And yesterday I was at the pool with one of my best friends and all of our kids. And I was just sitting there underneath the sun, and I was so peaceful. It's a friend that I had lost during my relationship with my ex, and we're going to do an episode about isolation and alienation from your loved ones by your partner or whomever is creating all the problems in your life. But she was someone I grew up with and who I love so much, and our kids are the same age, and over the last, it's been about, I don't know, it's been quite a while now. I would say like since Christmas, we have been back in each other's lives. I've had to mend some bridges that I burned during my relationship, and that was one of them. And, everybody has a part to play in things, and I think I'm going to have her on the show, actually, so we can talk about friendship, alienation with partners, because that's a whole nother thing. And guys, I'm sorry, I'm going to be throwing out a lot of terminology here that you'll understand as I go on. But anyway, let's get back to yesterday. So yesterday I'm like sitting under the sun, watching like all these kids play Marco Polo, and like just, it was such a beautiful day, and it was so calm. And I can remember this time last year being in possibly one of the darkest places I've ever been in my life. I'm 40 years old, and I have a young son, and I really didn't see anything ahead of me. Everything was really dark. And if you have experienced intimate partner violence or domestic violence, or had a partner who had narcissistic tendencies, or a family member or something, even in the workplace, gosh, I'll do a whole episode on that one too. It just zaps you. It takes everything you have from you, and you become a shell of yourself. And I remember hearing that term thrown around, like, what even does that mean? And it's true, because when I was 33, so I'm 40 now, so do the math. I was like living my best life, right? I had gotten divorced, and I was having a very successful co-parenting and still do with my son's father. Shout out, what's up? I don't even know if he's going to listen to this, but he and I have worked really hard to keep things, copacetic between us. And I really like his wife. And we all kind of have like an understanding, right? That we're here for the kids. So we had separated because life happens. And I was living in this house that I bought, and I was getting it ready, and I was feeling really good, and I was going out with my friends all the time. I was, taking guitar lessons. I was working. I was going to the gym. I was doing all this stuff, that I'd wanted to do. I got a big old tattoo with like a skull on my arm, and like, I'm kind of like a, I don't know. I was born in 1983, so like picture like a girl that looks really young for her age with like blue hair and a big tattoos everywhere, and that my kid is obsessed with Nirvana. So there we go. I'm like super dorky, but nerdy, but cool. And I was just starting to come into my own. Like I hadn't fully gotten there like I am now, but like I was starting to be myself for the first time in my life, because I got married really young and all that. So, and I had a kid and I was busy. So when I was that person, I was amazing. I mean, I was attractive. I'm dynamic. I think I'm emotionally intelligent. I am a crisis counselor. Like I help people for like, that's what I do. I have a job that I work remotely from home and I do very well at. I'm just very, I thought I was doing pretty good, and came along, my worst nightmare pretty much. And they come in the form of this amazing promise, right? And I'm going to go all over the whole narcissistic ex later. But basically, I went from being that girl to this time last year not being able to leave the basement. I had gained 100 pounds I was so depressed. I was miserable. I was absolutely miserable. I was just existing, and I was being constantly beat down, and I was trying to set boundaries. I was trying to do all these things. I was trying to be better, but I just kept getting abused. And I experienced quite a few of the forms of abuse on the domestic abuse checklist. And so I was really miserable, right? So it was bad. It was really bad. And things were getting to the point where like I was kind of starting to like fear for my safety and obviously my mental health and all that kind of stuff. So my ex dumped me, which was actually like the best thing he ever did. Thank God. He couldn't do much else. So yeah, I don't want to talk trash on here, but there's going to be a little trash talk, but he's a bad person, and it's all going to be anonymous, but like he sucks. And we can feel pissed, right? Like we're allowed to feel pissed. It's like I feel a little upset because there's supposed to be this abuse, like protection, like, oh gosh, like, I abused you, but like, you can't say anything. So I put him on blast, and I essentially told the world, my friends and my family what had actually happened, which is pretty shocking, to say the least. And they had no clue. They had no clue as to the extent of what I'd been living with, because I'm really good at putting on a front, right? Like a happy face. And so yesterday I was just sitting there and I'm like, oh my God, I can't wait to start this podcast because I think I'm ready. And I know that Mr. Trauma is ready. And so here we are. Okay, that's where I'm at today. This is why I'm doing this today. And I'll get better at this. I'm going to be all over the place. You're probably going to just be like, Mrs. Trauma, you're insane. But I'm not. There is a method to my madness here. So we have some goals with this podcast. First of all, we want to share with you guys, our listeners, about what we went through individually a little bit, kind of gloss over it. We don't want to get too crazy, but we will talk about it. It's equally bad. We also want to talk about just what it feels like to be in that type of relationship and the things that happen to you and what to look for from a female perspective as well as a male perspective, because I know it's different. And the big elephant in the room is the fact that I am absolutely shocked at the lack of resources for men who are experiencing, PTSD, trauma, all this stuff from these relationships, unless they're like thrown into the legal system somehow because someone lied about something, or I don't know, they just I hate saying it, but maybe just leave the earth because they can't handle it. A lot of these men that I talk to when I do my crisis counseling, they are desperate and they are completely convinced that it is all their fault. And it is mind-boggling for me to see it on the flip side. Because I kind of only thought that type of manipulation happened from a insecure kind of man-child perspective or whatever, but no, it doesn't. It happens with women too. And so this time last year, I was getting out of this relationship. This relationship had been dead for probably 2 years prior. We were just sort of functioning because he had nowhere else to go. And he was living off of me and living in my house and trashing my house and treating all of my things like crap and just literally shitting all over my life. Okay. And things came to a head. The big thing he hated was that I gained a bunch of weight. And, it was COVID and I was doing remote learning with my kiddo, and my son's father is very busy with his job. So I have my son pretty much full time, and it's fine. I like it that way. We like routine. It's cool. But, I really did have to put myself on the back burner for a while. And, he also was an alcoholic, is an alcoholic. I'm sure he still is. He's a self-proclaimed narcissist. He's a spoiled brat. He was a little bit younger than me. He thought playing video games was way more fun than hanging out with me. All he would do was belittle me all the time. He alienated everyone out of my life. He was just the most obnoxious person you've ever met in your life. Still is to this day, I'm sure. It's kind of a small town where I live, and I do hear stories of my friends running into him and them just being like, oh my God, he's the worst. So no love lost there. But at the time I was like, oh my God, he's convinced me that I'm never going to meet someone, or I'm always going to be alone. And I'm not going to lie. I am a romantic. I love to be in love. I have never actually think I have been in love until I met Mr. Trauma. And my mom told us that on the phone the other day. I've always just been really guarded, and I let my guard down a little bit with this guy. Let's find a nickname for him. Let's call him the, oh God, I don't know, the puppeteer, the puppet master. We'll figure something out for him for a nickname. But, I really had closed myself off and it was really bad. So, yeah, I just lost my train of thought. This is so hard. This has been a long time. This is a practice episode. I'm probably going to re-record this. Oh, getting back to it. So I was basically just like existing, like waste of space, not contributing to anything. Except for I was taking care of my kid. And that's the one thing that I consistently did, was take care of my son. And he tried to use that against me, and he did parent alienate me from him. And there's a whole nother like piece of all this stuff. There's like guilt that you feel for what you let happen. And I let this person steal precious time away from me and my child together, in his like little bitty years, he's going to be turning 10. So yeah, I would be alienated down to the basement because I didn't want to be around the alcohol, and my son would seemingly be wanting to hang out with him. So I let it happen, and I didn't realize that we were all being manipulated. And so, my kid has also experienced trauma. He never physically did anything to my child, but mentally, my kiddo has struggled, and he's needed a lot of support and love. So, we've come a long way, and he's doing really well. Thank goodness. And, I played my part too. Like, I'm not saying I'm a complete victim here. I'm just saying that, like, I was with someone who made it their job to find me when I was at my best and then suck me dry, suck every little ounce of my supply. That's another word. I could offer him until I completely shut down. And I gray rocked him, stonewalled him, iced him out, whatever you want to say. And I completely just disengaged. And he knew at that point that he had officially done his job well done, sir, and on to the next. And he literally, after living here for 6 years, moved out within like 15 minutes and left like all his stuff here. I've not seen the man since. Spoken to him via email a few times. He's just always arrogant and doesn't own anything or apologize for anything. So, typical narcissistic behavior. I'm fine with it. The closure that I needed was just to realize that he was wrong about me. So getting back to like resources and stuff. So like, it's been a year since this happened, and a lot's happened. I'm still falling on my face sometimes. I still have panic attacks. I still have dreams about this person. But I have also come a long way. Whilst I was throwing myself into, learning about trauma, and really, I was really more geared on the whole like narcissism piece of it. I decided, what the heck? I'm going to like see what's up and put myself out there. Cause like, I'm not going to lie. This is not like a PG-13 podcast. We're going to be talking about some real stuff. Like, I hadn't been intimate with someone in a really long time, and my ex would weaponize sex and withhold it from me. And it was really bad and nasty and terrible behavior. And so like, I was really going insane. So like, I hopped on some dating apps, and I'm like curious, I wasn't going to hoe around, but I was kind of looking for a friend. I don't know what I was looking for, actually. I just started looking to see if I was totally like just chopped liver at that point. Because when I met this man, my ex, I was a hottie, toddy, thotty, whatever they call that right now. I'm not a Gen Zer, but I was doing pretty good. I looked great. I felt great. And then fast forward 6 years later, and I felt like kind of like a gargoyle. It was terrible. So, I talked to a couple people and just, they were nice, right? But like, it just didn't have the energy or time to be like, oh, I'm going to make time to go meet up with this person. And now I'm kind of getting into like the other person behind this podcast, which is Mr. Trauma. So I'm going through it, right? It's summer, end of summer. Now I've been kind of on my own. Not really. My parents had to come and stay with me because I was really in a bad way. Like, I needed my family. I had not had any type of like love shown or support shown to me in so long. And, one of the last things my ex told me was, I can't ever look at anyone that loves you in the eye ever again, because now they know everything I did because you told them everything and it's your fault. Right? So there we go. There's another thing. So basically, I did myself a huge favor by coming clean about what was happening, and everybody thought I was happy and I wasn't. So they came pretty quick. My OGs, my good friends and my parents and everybody was really supportive. My ex-husband, my son's father, was very supportive. His wife is incredibly supportive. I'm so lucky to have those relationships. My mom and dad rock. Hey mom, hey dad. And also my son and I just needed some time to just like exist in a home where like you knew who was going to show up at the door every day, which was nobody for once. Thank God. Because this person was so loud and sucked like the air and the energy out of every room he was in. He's just overly arrogant, needed all eyes on him. It was exhausting. And I'm an only child. My kid's an only child. We're pretty quiet. We like to have fun. Like, we have good times, but we don't party. I don't drink. I don't do all that stuff, right? And so he was just doing it by himself in my house and creating chaos. And so it was really kind of like reconnecting with like my home at first. And I had all these walls up when I went into this whole like idea of talking to someone and meeting someone. I was like, okay, I don't need to get married because I'm, I work and I pay my bills. I'm cool. I don't like need a man, right? But I would like to have like a partner, and maybe someday, like, I don't know, retire and get like side by side retirement condos. Like, never ever live with anyone ever again. I mean, I was so over it. I was so protective of myself and my time and my space and my kid and everything that I was completely just like shut off, really. And so I started to get on these like, I got on, not the ones that you go on to like hook up. I got on some like legit apps, and I was also, in a lot of support groups online, and they were predominantly like women, and everyone's like, oh, don't date, like, don't do this, don't do that. But like, I had to get my mind off of what was going on. And one of my girlfriends was like, girl, the best way to get over someone is to get under someone else. And I was like, that's really ratchet, but maybe you're right. So I was feeling like I wanted to connect in some way. I didn't know at what capacity at that point. I was just like, okay, I'm ready to like have somebody touch me. Okay. I know that I don't care. Lights off. I don't care. I'll be very transparent. At the time, I've lost a ton of weight since then, but at the time I was like, if you like curvy girls, you'll like me. Like, I'm not bad. So, I get on these apps, right? And it like terrifies me. And like, I completely shut it down. I'm just like, fuck this. So I get off. But I didn't realize that I had matched with someone. But I had like deleted the app, and it was the one that you like have to get in touch with them, or what, it's like Bumble or whatever. I'm going to flag this just in case I can't say that. But yeah, so it's the one that were like, you take the lead. The girl takes the lead. It's like the Sadie Hawkins dance of dating apps, okay? So I took a break and just kept, doing what I was doing and just hanging out. And I just started to get lonely, really. But I was happier. I was just so relieved to not be bombarded with like verbal abuse constantly all day. I mean, I was terrorized, really. And like I said, I'll get more into that later down the road. I'm just kind of giving you like a preface of like what this is, how I know Mr. Trauma, why this all happened. It's kind of all over the place, but I promise you that it will become cohesive once we start planning. This is just like my unfiltered intro about kind of a little bit about me. Everything will be much more structured, trust me, from here on out. Like, I'm taking notes and stuff. Oh, and by the way, if you like the logo, I designed that myself. Pretty proud of it. So anyway, yeah, so I got off and then I was like, ugh. My mom was in town and like, I love my mom to death, but it's like I have my kid and my mom here and I'm just like, oh my God, I'm going insane. I just want to talk to someone. Like I wasn't even like maybe even gonna like meet up with someone because I was so hurt still and I was still processing like all of this stuff that happened and no closure. Like guys, I'm telling you right now, you'll never get closure. If you're traumatized by someone, you have to let it go. You will never get closure. You'll never get a goodbye. You'll never get this. I thankfully didn't have a lot of like hoovering is what they call it, where he would try to come back into my life because I think once I told everyone what he did to me, the hard cold facts of what happened, he's kind of like a pussy and he knew that if he came around, he was gonna probably not be in like the best place. So he kind of stayed away from me. So anyway, that was good. But I was still, sending him like unhinged, like stupid text messages because I was brainwashed. Like, oh my God, it was so silly. I have voice recordings of myself like crying for like 15 minutes over him. Ugh, my gosh. I just look back and I'm just like, so, I give myself grace because it was 6 years of being hammered into the ground. Right. But I also look back and I'm like, what the fuck was I doing? What the fuck was I doing? Anyway, resources. Okay. So we'll get into that too. But I had to stop doing my crisis counseling and everything because like I just couldn't do shit. I couldn't do anything except for just like breathe. So I started to kind of feel a little bit better. And flag there, I yawned. I was never allowed to get a cat. And I already had 2 cats and I really wanted to get a kitten. And so I like got like my cat that I was never allowed to get. I got this little kitty. Her name's Harley. And now we're down to two cats. Cause Jazzy, my other kitty cat passed away. But she held out, I think, until she knew I was okay. Again, we'll have an episode on pets too. Cause like pets are a big thing. And then, so I got the kitten and I was like, oh my gosh. And then I had a friend of mine move in with me who has a young son and she was sort of down and out and I have a finished basement. I was like, I am lonely. Come live with me. So I had a roomie. I had like a cat and I was like, okay, I'm feeling a little bit better. Like, okay, I feel safe. I'm good. I was like totally just not, I had no idea what I wanted. I don't know what I was thinking really. Honestly, it was probably actually pretty like reckless for me to have done what I did at that point because it was pretty fast. But also you have to remember when you're in those relationships, you're so lonely for so long. I felt like I'd been alone since COVID, since the pandemic. And this was just last year where this happened. So I was lonely, and I'm I'm an extrovert, introvert. Like I like a small group of friends that I'm really close with. I didn't have that anymore. I like to have, intimate connections, didn't have that anymore. So I was not feeling great, but my son and I, we were reconnecting and we were getting things done. And he was like crushing it at school and everything was kind of starting to feel good again. So my mom was here, like I said, and oh my God, this is like so all over the place. I'm so fucking sorry. I don't even know what I'm talking about. I'm going to flag that. I'm not even going to be able to use this. I might just leave this up for like shits and giggles so people can be like, oh my God, bleh. There's just so much to this. It's like, it's so big that it's hard to break it down. So I'm trying to like break down just like the little beginning parts of it. So anyway, I'm doing my thing, all this stuff, therapy, blah, blah, blah. Support groups, yada, yada, yada. Trash talking all day long, okay? And then I get back on the Sadie Hawkins dating app and I matched with this guy, right? And like, I was like, like he's kind of my type. Yeah. Older, check. Like I had this checklist in my brain and I would literally lay in my bed in the basement because that's where I was living, basically in the basement because I was too afraid to come upstairs when my ex was here because he was just the worst. And so I would sit down there and I would just go over and over again, like someone out there wants me. They've got to want me. Like I've so many good things about me and there's got to be a guy out there who just like wants to eat this up like Thanksgiving dinner, right? And I want to be a little bit older. Like at the time, I was 39, I think 38 or 30. I was like 38 when I started wishing this. So this was like 2 years ago. I was like, I want a guy who's like cool, like has a job. Cause like I am so sick of financially supporting this like man child. I want a guy who likes to fuck, who likes to listen to music, who likes to have fun, who likes to cook and participate and do like activities with the house, who is tidy and takes care of himself. Maybe he's raised kids, maybe he has kids, but one way or another has been responsible for someone else other than himself, has lived on his own. I don't care if he's married, has been married, not married at the time, but has a marriage under his belt or whatever. I just wanted like a grown-ass man was what I kept saying, grown-ass man. And I just was like putting it out in the universe, like so hard. I was like, I want a grown-ass man. So Mr. Trauma matched with me and I was like, okay, like I'm interested, right? Like grown-ass man vibes, okay? So he was a little bit shy at first and I was like, okay, what's going on here? Something's weird, but he was very upfront about why he liked me. And I asked him, I said, so you used your like ding dong super swipe on me. Why? And he's like, it's your hair. And for all you guys out there, I've usually got a different color hair every month. Like I really like fun hair color and I can pull it off still. So I'm riding it out till somebody says I'm too old for it. But he's like, I like your hair. And he's like, I hope that's not like shallow or superficial or something. And I was like, no, actually it's refreshing because it's honest. And I was like, I like my hair too. Cause like I do. I put a lot of time into it and I like my hair. So, yeah, we just sort of like started doing the how's it going? How's your day? Yada, yada, chit, 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 chat, 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 just sort of surfacey stuff. And then, I was just kind of sickened by everyone else I was talking to. I was like, this is disgusting. I had some guy say I was like low hanging fruit and I was like, that's a whole nother thing. Like, I'm not going to do. So, I was like, listen, I just, do you want my number or whatever? So we started texting, okay, me and Mr. Trauma. And this is like in the fall of last year. So like early October of last year, okay? And I'm starting to feel a little bit better about myself. I had been on like one date. It wasn't like a date out. It was like a date in. And so I like had an encounter with the opposite sex, and it went okay. And I was like, okay, like, all right, okay. I'd been single for a few months now. I'd been processing and doing all this work that we're going to talk about. And I meet Mr. Trauma. Okay. So I cancel a couple times because I'm scared. And then I had a family emergency at one point as well. So our first date ended up being like Halloween to go trick-or-treating. We were both like so nervous. I was like sweating in the middle of October in a state that is very cold in October. And I invited him to come trick-or-treating, and I was like freaking out. I'm like, oh my God. Because at this point, he and I had probably talked on the phone for like at least like 50 hours or something. Like we would have these 2-hour-long conversations at night, and he was opening up to me about some stuff. And so I knew that he had been through it too. And I'll let him tell you his story. But I didn't know the full extent of everything quite yet, which is fine. And again, that'll come later as to what had happened. But I knew that he had gotten burned really hard, and he had like listened to me cry. He wasn't trying to be like overly sexual with me. He was just like being really like a friend, but like a friend that I was kind of like having a weird crush on, even though I hadn't met him. So I meet Mr. Trauma, and we'll save that episode for when we do it together about our first date because it's cute. Two traumatized people going on a first date. Hilarious, by the way, because you're like so nervous, you're just sweating, and you're like super insecure, and everything is like, ah. So it was awesome. It was so funny. Looking back now, we were both just like so freaked out. But, it went well, and it went slow. It went well. And then, I was like, well, he's never going to contact me again, but he did. And so fast forward to now, we are married officially, and we've done a ton of work. And so that's why we feel qualified to come on here on the internet or whatever the fuck this is and talk about the fact that the information that is given about trauma is very one-sided, right? I think, like I said, it's very dominated in the female lane, okay? Which I understand. And trust me, thank God it's there. But Mr. Trauma is a grown-ass man. He holds it down. He's like my like daddy doodad. I'm his like baby girl. Like he knows what's up. He throws it down. He holds down the house. He's got his own shit together. Like he's a grown-ass man, right? And, but he's also sensitive and vulnerable. And I think that's very masculine. He is romantic. He has been hurt beyond measure. And he lived with this for a really long time. And, I don't know if someone out there is sitting there listening to this and they're like, I feel like I'm Mr. Trauma. But once you hear kind of his story, he'll be a little bit more structured. I have ADHD, so I'm all over the place, but he'll be a bit more structured, and I will next time. I'm just kind of testing this out right now, see how it feels, because it's a bit triggering because I used to podcast with my ex, and I've now since like archived that show, but this is something I really enjoyed doing, and I can't believe I'm actually doing it again. So it's cool. So anyway, there's just not enough out there for you guys. And so I am taking the initiative to come on here and shout out to the rooftops. Like, you guys, men, you are probably experiencing domestic violence in some form or another if you're traumatized. And we are going to talk about that, and we are going to have resources for you. We're going to have show notes. We're going to be putting together PDFs. We're going to be putting together actual tangible things that are linked in the bio of the shows that you can just print and you can have. We're also going to do some stuff about keeping yourself safe financially, because, financial abuse is another form of domestic abuse as well, which I got to see firsthand. And then we're going to offer some resources for you to contact if you're in crisis. And also just listening to his story, I hope that you can hear yourself in him, because I can't tell his story for him, and it's not fair if I try, because it's powerful and it's very important. And my story is too. I'm sort of glossing over it right now, but the priority here is to even out the playing field and throw out another resource. I am a crisis counselor, and I can pull from resources from everywhere, and I can pull a handful for men out of 1,000 for domestic violence, intimate partner violence, parent alienation, a handful from all of those resources that are specific to men. I'm not saying that all of the other ones are specific to women. There's a lot that are just sort of gender neutral, but sometimes you've been so emasculated that you want something that is just for you from a male's perspective. Well, guess what? We got him, and he's really excited about talking about what he went through. Not in the sense of reliving it or anything, but paying it forward, because we have felt the universe has been so good to us. I don't know why we have scored so big with each other. We both feel like we just hit the lottery. We're so gaga over each other. I mean, I'm in love for the first time in my life, and I married this person. I told myself I never would. I broke all my boundaries, right? But the good ones. He flipped the script on me, and it's not like he tried. We both went in very cautious, and we, did things safely. We protected ourselves financially because we know what it's like to get screwed over. So, we got our finances in order. We drew up paperwork. We are in this for the right reasons. And, I still think sometimes he struggles to trust me, because he was so manipulated. And so it breaks my heart, first of all, that the man that I love is still having problems with that, and that there still isn't enough out there for him. Even with me, his wife, and with all of the amazing work that he's done that he's going to share with everyone. And I'm going to share with you guys what I did too, just because I know we have female listeners. I want there to be a female audience. I also want there to be females out there who hear my story and maybe realize that they're in a fucked up situation, or they know some man that's in a fucked up situation. But it's like we have two perspectives that can come together. I have, I'm a trained, licensed crisis counselor, and he's done what he's done. He'll tell you about that. And I've put in a lot of time learning about this stuff. So, my hopes are to obviously not have another long-winded, stupid episode like this in terms of just blah, blah, blah. But I'm trying to just kind of feel it out. I might even just delete this. I don't know yet. I might leave it up just for funsies. But, we're going to have structured episodes. We're going to have people that we know that have also experienced this, men and women. I'm going to reach out to some of the content creators that inspired me that are male. There's very few of them. I'm hoping that I can have them come on and talk about that whole thing, that there needs to be more support for men. There's not even shelters, safe houses. It's it's like jail is your safe house. You know what I mean? It's messed up. There's no safe haven. There's no, battered men's shelters around. It just doesn't exist. And right now, statistically speaking, there are men that are being physically abused, domestic violence, emotional violence right now. And there is not enough out there for them, and it is not okay. So, yeah, we want to change that. I don't know if we're going to put a huge dent in it, but if we can put a bit of a dent, then I'm here for it. Plus, I have a son, and I want him to feel like he can come and talk about what he experienced as well as a child. So we kind of want all perspectives. We're thinking about having our parents on, friends, of course, our close friends that, for me, I've gotten back in my life that watched watched what I went through and watched me push them away. And now see it like that I'm doing much, much better. And I'm not going to lie, I still go to therapy. I think everyone should go to therapy if they can. If you can get therapy, do it. Again, I can link some resources for some discounted therapy and some tips and tricks. I'll jot that down as well as to resources for therapy, and some ways you can get discounts on that. Yeah, we're here just kind of to share everything we know, which is a lot of stuff. Mr. It's so funny calling him that. Mr. Trauma and I still have very long talks about our trauma and how it affects us, but it also empowers us to set boundaries with one another. For the first time, he feels like he is like the man he wants to be. He's like, I feel confident. I stand straighter. I feel good. I feel like I've got a girl behind me that loves me, and I do. Oh my gosh, I do. And, I have had to let all my walls down. So I've had to strip every layer that I've put up away to let him in, because he uses the word greedy. Like, he really likes to be affectionate with me and have my attention, and I like that. But it's taken me time to get there because I put so many walls up in front of me to protect me. And it takes time to strip those down. So there's a lot we have to say. It's overwhelming. Like I said, it will be better and more structured. I just kind of wanted to introduce myself and kind of give you an idea of what we're doing here. We're definitely here for the guys. We're here for the girls. We're here for the kids. We're here for everyone. We've been through it. We've lived it. We have literally been through every scenario basically you can think of. Like everything down to like death threats. So, it's not going to be fun for us to relive all this stuff, but it's important because I think we're so isolated these days. And I think that people are so fixated on this like false narrative that social media displays that everything's perfect when it's not. I think people put too much pressure on themselves. I think people are disconnected. And I think that if we were more connected, there would be more support and more resources. And also just more men speaking out and feeling confident and comfortable that they can around a woman. So we're also going to link our contact info. So if like you guys have stories or if you're going through it, contact us and we can have a talk and have you on the show. And I don't know, maybe troubleshoot or hear your story, hear how you got out of it, hear what went down. I mean, we want to involve our listeners in this 100%. So this is for you guys, really, because we have gotten blessed with so much from finding each other and finding information finally and finding ourselves individually as well. So it's time to give it back. So anyway, with all my love, I'm going to cut it off right now before I keep going, but hopefully you guys will come back. We'll see. I might not post this. We'll see what's up. But anyway, thanks for listening, and we'll see what this turns into. That's all we can do. But Mr. Trauma's birthday is this weekend, so we'll probably have another episode up on Monday. All right, guys, please take care of yourselves. And there are resources out there immediately, like crisis text line. There's the suicide hotline. And there's always good old 911 you can call if you feel like you're in danger emotionally at all, or especially physically by your partner. Utilize one of those. Please, please don't be afraid. Okay. I promise there's resources, and I'll share more with you, but crisis text line is really great. And call the cops. Call the cops. I did it. I should have done it more. Okay, I'll leave you with that. And if you're already like, oh my God, I can relate, or I want to talk to Mr. Trauma, you can reach out to us. So please do. Our email and stuff is, I think, in the links. I have got to figure it out. I still have to get the webpage up. I just designed the logo, and I'm building the webpage. So we will be here, but I'm going to set up like a thing where you can leave a voice message, I think, on here. So you can leave a message if you want to, and we will get back to you if you want to anonymously or whatever. Like, I'm just letting you know we're here. And I'm a mandated reporter, so like I can actually talk about this stuff. And yeah. So let me know. Okay. Again, Mrs. Trauma signing off, and Mr. Trauma will be back, and then we'll be back together, and we'll be back with lots of good stuff. Okay. Take care of yourselves. Be well. Please, please take care of yourselves. Love yourselves. Give yourselves a big hug. You deserve it if you haven't had it in a while. All right. I'm sending you hugs. Take care.